This is Will Aubrey welcoming you to another edition of This Week in Laker Football, and Coach Mickey Garrison's here today. And Coach, we get to celebrate a victory as you opened the season 1-0 with a 22-0 win over Ohio County at Jack D. Rose Stadium last night.
Yeah, this is the way we like to open up on a weekend on Saturdays, talk about a victory. So we were very excited about last night.
You all played exceptionally well at times last night. Your defense pretty much played well the whole game.
Yeah, we've already taken the opportunity this morning to break down defensively at least and look at things. Obviously, still got areas, things maybe first game of the season are somewhat expected, but even with things to clean up, I mean, the intensity is there, the desire, the confidence, and these guys believe in one another. So we were very excited about that performance, and at times, like you said, just overwhelming in regards to what our front four were able to do all night and coverage in the backfield. Outstanding game defensively.
Let's talk about some of the individual defensive players and what they did last night. Michael Behrens, he got in on some big plays, had a couple of big sacks. Talk about the game that Michael had.
Yeah, and I've mentioned before too, what we give up maybe on the scales. Our guys are strong and they're athletic, and they're just the motor is nonstop. And Michael and Colton Cox both had strong games at the defensive end position. Those tackles had their hands, full all night long. They had to bring up their running back at times into an up back position to try to help out and double team them. Even at that, they were having to hold them, do everything to keep them off their quarterback. And then Effinger, of course, and Gage Phillips and Trey came in and got some very important reps at D tackle too. So those front guys all night long were busy and kept that guy on the run. We learned a little bit as far as being able to contain him, and we're going to see some of those athletic quarterbacks that get out of the pocket and run and extend plays. So we've got a lot to work on, but our guys that's a special group.
For the longest time, you held them in check, didn't let them score. And my partner, Joe Darnold, said last night at one point, the only thing the defense hasn't done is get a turnover. And then you got a turnover as Jacob Bella came up with the interception.
Right, and we've got some differences in coverages that we're calling this year and things, and we're still learning some of that. But we've just got some ballers back there that know the game and play off of one another. The responsibilities got tighter as the game went on, and so that's going to happen too. When we're getting that kind of pressure on them up front, it's going to force some of those things. The field and the wet ball wasn't as much of an issue as we thought it was going to be, although we were prepared for that. But regardless, during the course of the game, there are going to be those opportunities. We dropped a few, and so those are things we'll need to capitalize on later on. But very proud of that effort, and Bella getting that interception was a game changer.
One sign of the way your defense played, Ohio County was wearing white uniforms. They weren't very white by the time the game ended.
No, and that was anticipated. They looked pretty before the kickoff, and after that, it was a muddy game. I mean, literally mud in the eyes and deal with that kind of thing. Field held up well. We won't actually see it on the varsity level for another 6 weeks now, so we'll have some time to heal up. But our guys, obviously in practice during this monsoon season, they've had to practice in those kinds of conditions and prepped with a wet, game ball and things like that. So whatever the weather brings, we're going to be ready for it.
At one point, the quarterback for Ohio County, Heath Simmons, had mud and grass all in his face mask. The official had to come over and clean it off for him.
Right, that was an issue for everybody. We were working hard to get him on the ground as often as possible. And as the game went on, and he's a tremendous athlete, a good quarterback, a big kid, and scrambled and so forth. But eventually, our guys were just in great shape and wore them down. And so at the end, you saw, it finally took its toll on their game. And like you said, he got out to a really good start. We kept everything in front of us pretty much, and and just took advantage as the game went on.
You mentioned that you wore them down, and it did seem like as the game went on, you got more and more pressure on Simmons. Whereas at the beginning, he might be getting pressure from one side, he'd have somewhere to go. There at the end, he would get pressure from one side, he would think he had somewhere to go, and then when he got there, you had somebody there to sack him.
Right, and when we've got our front four doing that, and that allows our three linebackers, Culver, and Kane and Young to do their jobs. And Young is more of a strong safety type as he comes over, and then Norsworthy's our other strong safety, but there's a lot of coverage there. But especially Kane and Culver, allowing them to make the tackles and to clean up things. The running game was just non-existent for them. I think they had negative 29 yards on the ground, and so unable to do that, they became very one-dimensional, and just they were on the run. And our guys have worked hard to be in shape. We'll be even better shape, this coming weekend. So whatever we give up, like I said, as far as size, I think we will take full advantage of our athletes and the strength and just the condition that they're in.
Well, you're talking about them being one-dimensional, and it wasn't just that they were forced to throw the ball almost all the time. They only had about 3 or 4 guys even touch the ball on offense. They had that one core group, and those were the guys that were going to get the football.
Right, and when you coming in, and they lost a couple of their athletes last year, a couple of their running backs and so forth. But the kids that were out there, I mean, they had some good receivers. They had a go-to guy that they tried to, get him the ball as much as possible. But again, it really came down to just assignments and us trusting one another, taking care of our responsibilities. And like I said, we had some first week breakdowns. We'll look back at that and clean that up this week. But overall, just a solid performance.
Take a look at the offense. Jacob Bella, 10 of 13 through the air. I think he threw for about 95 yards. That's pretty solid for his first start at quarterback.
Right, and again, the wet field had a little bit to do with some play selection. There's a lot of things he's going to be able to do through the course of the season, and that'll change a little. There'll be new wrinkles each week, just depending on who we're playing and as we're able to put more things in. But we were able to. He was doing a great job with the read option. That was apparent. Darius and Cody, having them back there in the backfield. Darius had a great night. Several touches, had 60-something yards, and then obviously having Jeremiah out there to get him the ball, whether it's coming across on a laser or coming across and getting the ball on the ground or throwing them the screen. We'll do there. Obviously, we still have more weaponry in the arsenal that we'll be able to sling it around and spread it out some. But those guys came through big, and we just kept going to what was working.
Where do you think Jacob needs to improve as a quarterback? What does he need to work on?
Just to continue, he's working on all of it.
Okay.
And so really, and we talked about this today for all of our guys, if there is a weakness, and we're going to be very honest with our film sessions and when we go out to practice, and that's our job as the coaches to point those things out so that the weaknesses no longer are glaring things that the opposition can look at and pick on. So Jacob, just like the rest, he's a very mature, just very confident in what he's doing, but at the same time honest with the things that he's got to work on. There's no doubt he'll get those reps and work hard as well as the other guys. So hard to pick out one thing.
Okay. Looking at your running backs, Gary Stribling had a good game for you last night, and Cody didn't get as many touches at running back as Darius did, but I thought Cody Orr looked good too.
Right, and the touches that he got, making the most out of opportunities, and we've talked about both of them, getting those extra yards when they get the ball. Obviously, especially when you watch Bell on the he's so patient, you can see it. Just trusting our guys as far as the blocking schemes and our front five. Before I forget, man, I got to mention them because it was an outstanding job as far as our O-line. Culver, of course, at center, in the middle, and then Gage Phillips and Effinger and Colton Cox this year, as a sophomore coming in for the first time playing on the O-line, did a fantastic job. And Christian Harris, who's just grown and getting stronger and more solid in his whole game. So they did an outstanding job. But yeah, Cody and Darius, one thing that we have seen over the last month is just in practice and the opportunities they had in scrimmage in this first game is the strength, the willingness to move the pile forward And I think there's a lot of confidence there. We've told both of them some weeks it's going to be Darius, and some weeks it's going to be Cody. And it's good to have that. Whoever's got the freshest leg, those opportunities are going to be there. And when the opportunity knocks either one, I'm going to be ready.
Jacob completed 10 of 13 passes. Jeremiah Malone was his favorite target, and he connected with him on multiple occasions. It was kind of a short passing game, a lot of screens.
Right, and again, just efficient, taking what they gave us and field conditions and other things, but we felt really good about the game plan coming in. And so against this defense, as far as their alignment, how they were going to cover the slot, we knew that our slots, especially Jeremiah, was going to be open to be able to do that. Chandler Kane, who will, we'll go double wide on each side quite a bit throughout the year, but last night he just lined up tight at the wide. Didn't get many looks as far as receptions, but he was our sixth lineman there, did a fantastic job. But yeah, just they backed off of Jeremiah in the slot, so we were able to give him the ball in space. He's just Jeremiah. He's going to make things happen.
Absolutely. You scored first, as you got 2 touchdowns there in the first quarter. The first one was Jeremiah Malone. It was an 18-yard touchdown off of a pass from Jacob Bell, and then Jacob had a 13-yard scoring run for your second touchdown, put you up 12-0.
14-0 will be a lot more appreciative. We've got to fix some things up as far as specialty teams, and we know that. Last year, there seemed to be some gaps and some issues throughout the year. It's not that we have not put the emphasis on that, and we are getting better, but there were some things last night. And we got some kids that have just come in recently, too, that might be becoming more a part of the mix there in our special teams. But actually on our first one, Ian Clark, a freshman, actually had our first extra point of the year, and it was good, but we had a penalty there, had to back it up, and then there's a problem with the snap and hold, and those things are going to happen sometimes. But we'll get reps and clean that up, and then we went for the 2-point conversion and failed to be able to do that. But it was apparent that we were able to move the ball efficiently, but then we have some penalties that are coming in. We did miss some opportunities, and so one of the things that we want to do this year is just throughout the process of the game, taking every opportunity when we got that kind of momentum and just to put the foot down on them. And so we kind of left a little bit out there first half. I felt like at the halftime, the coaches and the players were very sincere with listening to us. They understood that there were some things we had to clean up. So they went out second half, cleaned some of those things up, and just finished a solid performance.
To be fair, the second quarter was unusual because Ohio County, despite the fact that they didn't rack up that much yardage, they didn't score, they kind of monopolized possession of football in the second quarter. There were a lot of penalties, and you didn't really get much of an opportunity in the second quarter. I think you had the ball maybe twice, 3 times at the most, and the third time would have been at the very end.
And that's something too. We'd have them in 3rd and long, or there'd be a situation like that, and we'd let them off the chain. So those are things, again, just to be opportunistic, to know what the situation is, and it was frustrating too. Part of the game is officials not going to see everything. There were a couple times when actually multiple times they were having to hold Michael Behrens and Colton Cox all night long, and so I know that was frustrating. But again, we cleaned that up second half. They got dialed in and realized, without any excuses, we got to get this guy down, and so that's what happened second half. But yeah, second quarter, offensively just didn't get those opportunities. They probably had possession 3/4 of the
I would
that
think
second
so.
quarter.
And it made for, as I said, an unusual second quarter. And as far as the kids, when there are that many penalties, it probably makes it a little difficult for them to maintain their intensity.
Right, it is, and that's, again, I'm going to attribute the guys to that. We put the goose egg up there. This defense has a lot of pride. They know there's still a lot of room for growth, but we took another step forward last night. Even though, there were opportunities where we might have let them out of the cage a little bit, we stepped up and didn't allow them to get in there, and so we still maintained that advantage going in. We had that momentum, but yet they were still hungry with a lot of room to improve. So I feel like this coming week we'll only learn from that and get better.
Now, as far as your game plan for Ohio County versus the way you might play down the road, as I mentioned earlier, you utilized the short passing game. Down the road, might we see you throw more intermediate range or long passes?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely there. And, Jacob has grown in it as far as his range and what he can do. There's not many throws he can't make, so we definitely have that. I would say across the state last night, there's a lot of games where you saw a more vanilla version of offensively and even defensively, perhaps, than what you'll see, 2 or 3 weeks down the line. But we definitely have a lot more things in the in that offensive playbook that will, I'm sure, even come out this coming Friday night. But we did what we needed to do and what was working for us last night. That was fun.
You scored twice in the fourth quarter after having scored twice in the first quarter. The first touchdown that you got in the fourth quarter was a Jeremiah Malone touchdown off of a pass from Jacob Bella, a 47-yarder. And then something happened that really doesn't happen or hasn't happened very often over the last 10 years of Laker football. You got a field goal from Christian Adams.
I'm not sure when the last one was. I haven't dug into the history books, but yeah, that's something that Christian Adams gives us. He's kicked them consistently from 45, and so and obviously this is the first time I believe that he's played football since 6th grade. But to get him and Christian Bobo out there, and Ian Clark is, as a freshman, is someone that's up and coming, and he's going to get a lot of freshman JV reps and maybe even some varsity kicks. But Adams and Bobo gives us a lot as far as the special team side of things and extra points and having that range with field goal. I mean, that was huge. That's something. Last year we left a lot of points on the field in regards to situations where we needed to do that, and it was a place where we struggled. But we feel really good about Adams or Bobo, either one of those coming out and kicking a field goal.
Just looking generally at the way that your team played, what positives do you take out of it, and where will you be looking for improvement over the next week?
I believe just the fact that our guys are very, they recognize that although we're going in the right direction, there's still a lot to accomplish. There's still a lot of improvements to be made. And they understand that potential doesn't mean a whole lot unless that's something that we're actually grasping at and working as hard as we can to maximize all the things that we have that are strengths, and at the same time being honest and fixing things that appear right now that might be our weaknesses. So I think as we mature, as we grow in our responsibilities and trusting one another and growing closer as a team, this is definitely so obvious. Right before the game, even at halftime, these guys, they want it. They are so hungry, and the confidence level is where we had hoped it would be and where it should be. And I think that's only going to continue to grow. So as the course of a game goes on, regardless of what's going on, I feel like our guys realize and understand we are the kind of team. There's not a team on our schedule that we cannot beat. And so we have that kind of confidence, but we know we've got to work hard. We also know there's not a team on our schedule that we can take for granted. So I feel like we're very balanced in that understanding of what we got to do this year, and hopefully we'll get better every week.
Next week brings Murray High, and you play them at 7 p.m. next Friday night over at Stewart Stadium. There are some interesting challenges that game will offer you, a couple of which you don't see every week. The first being the emotion that's involved with playing your crosstown rival. How will you deal with that?
Well, on one side, you let it happen. I mean, you cannot take away the fact that there's a history here, that there are things that these guys, you can talk it down as much as you want. Inside these guys' minds and in their hearts, there's no way to, you can try to minimize this, but at the same time, there's really no reason to put any undue pressure. There's as much pressure on them as it is for us, and the other way as well. So our thing is to go in and realize, we got this game, we've got this opportunity, we're going to take advantage of it. I want them to enjoy the experience and just to take it in. It's big. It's one of the biggest things in our community that happens every year, and we love the rivalry. and we just cannot wait to step onto that turf this coming Friday night. We know Murray's going to be ready, and we're ready to take it to them.
Another challenge that you'll face, probably for the only time this year, is playing on the turf at Stewart Stadium in front of what will be the biggest crowd that you face this year. How will the environment affect the game? Are there any adjustments that you have to make or talk to your kids about with regard to playing on the field turf as opposed to playing on the grass?
Well, and the majority of these guys that were out there and were starters and played on it last year, we'll get an opportunity to get out on the turf. And probably the biggest thing is just pregame, and just like any away game, even though we're the home team, being in a different locker room, a little different schedule. We'll try to keep it as close to pregame schedule as possible. But again, like you said, just the environment and the crowd and all those things, that's something that can actually work to your advantage. And so, again, we're not going to minimize that. We're going to have fun with it, but at the same time, these guys are going to be dialed in and focused. We're going to work hard this week, and when kickoff happens, then we're just ready for it. We can't wait.
In the old days, when they had the stuff that was like concrete out there, that field also had a crown on it, which made the passing game kind of interesting.
Right. Well, and again, our game, as far as what we're going to do offensively, defensively, I don't think the turf, the field or stadium, anything like that really changes. It really has a whole lot to do with we know who we are, we know what our strengths are, and we going to tear apart the film that we get on Murray. They played it, they played today. About 4.5 hours away, they play the Tennessee team. So we'll be ready for that. We'll have a game plan, and just can't say enough about it. We want a crowd out there, and we know they'll be out there in red.
Do you have any festivities coming up this week, pep rallies, anything like that you want to let the people know about?
Yeah, if you go to Callaway County High School, I think there's some kind of interesting, creative, dress differently day every day. I think Monday is America Day. And so, I can't remember what all the breakdown is, but yeah, and our faculty and administration, getting really excited. It starts Monday, really, and so in that way, this week is unique. We do play it up, and we have a lot of fun with it. We want to get our community and the kids involved in it as much as possible. Down the line, just pretty quick, obviously, the game is Friday, but we also have our JV, which beat Fort Campbell last week. We'll play Marshall County on the 29th, and that'll be away. But we also have our middle school team, which is off to a great start. They had big, large victories over Treat County, both 7th and 8th grade. They play Ballard County on the 23rd, and that will be at home at 5:30. That's next week. And then our Little League, last night before our game, our Little League kids came out. We have 125 kids this year.
Oh, my.
In Little League, so it looked like a little Munchkin army out there, and it was outstanding for them. And I hope exciting for them and the parents and for everybody to see the future of Callaway County football. But we have about 125 playing. They play their first game August 30th, and that's at home against South Marshall. So although our varsity won't be at home again until October, there's plenty of other home games going on with their other teams.
I remember back during Coach McKeel's days, going over and watching the Little League. That's entertaining.
It is. It's entertaining to coach them, too. I can't say enough about our coaches and the parents getting those guys involved. There's a lot of learning, a lot of things that go on, but it's fun. It's just pure joy of the game, and that's what we want to bring for these kids this year. For the first time in a long time, we have a 3rd grade football team, and so those numbers are good. Josh Smith, he was a former head coach over at the middle school. He's really heading up and coordinating Little League this year. He's done a fantastic job with all of our coaches there. Sean Thompson is our middle school coach, doing a great job with that coaching staff. And I just want to throw in last week, I'm afraid I'll forget to do this every week, but I cannot say enough, and our guys sure do appreciate our coaching staff at the high school. And Coach Tony, who is our offensive coordinator and O-line coach, Coach Linky, who coaches the quarterback and the wide receivers. On the defensive side, Mitch and Tony Ryan, and just them coming on board last year, and we saw what we accomplished last year as a defensive unit, and that's only grown this year. In the addition of Dennis Terrell, who has college coaching, and he played pro football, and so he just the experience that he brings in, and Coach Jamaka Williams, Larry Watkins, and Will Houghton. We've got a great bunch of guys that put a lot of time and work in. They love this team, and it's just exciting to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a few minutes left here before it's time for us to go, but I would mention that you do have your bye week after you play Murray High, and is that something that you actually get to plan, or does it just kind of happen whenever it falls out that you don't have a game?
Well, last year coming in, we kind of inherited a 2-year contract. Next year we'll be looking at it. Sure would be nice if we could get that bye week on the fall break like a few teams have. But again, like I said, I didn't have a call on that this year. We're hoping in the future that might be different. But I don't know. It's an opportunity. Obviously, whenever you get that bye week, it's very important how you use that. It's an opportunity. Even though it's early in the season, you haven't had a lot of breaks. A lot of these guys have been working hard since January, after last season. And so there will be an opportunity there to get a little break and a little rest. But obviously Marshall follows the bye week, and that's going to be huge for us. But right now it's all about this week. It's about getting ready for Murray and this Friday night, and then we'll handle the bye week after Friday.
And it'll be a great scene. The stands will be full of people in red, and everybody should come out and tailgate. There generally are a bunch of Callaway fans tailgating before the game.
And I think that's something too that has grown, and we're trying to push that this year to make it more of an event for everyone. So alumni come out. Anybody in our students and parents of students in our district, come out and watch this. Even if you're not football fans, you're going to be very proud of this group, what these players represent, how they play, and it's just a whole lot of fun. And we are fully expecting a lot of success this year.
Okay. Have you had a chance to get a feel for what the district is going to look like this year?
I think very similar. Obviously, everybody's going to change and be a little bit different as far as the makeup of the team, the personnel. But not a lot of changeover as far as coaches go, except for at Logan County. And we can kind of look at through the year what every team is doing. But again, Madisonville, we're going to have to go up there. And we know what's waiting for us there. That's going to be a very, very physical game as it was last year. And so, we look forward to every week that we have. There are going to be different types of challenges. So we look forward to that. But Hopkinsville still, obviously stands on top of the district, and that should be that way as far as what they've shown. But that's what we want to change. We want to be in the fight for that. And of course, Logan County and Hopkins Central, I'm sure they've worked hard to take a jump up as well.
I put together a week-by-week preview of your opponents for MurraySports.net. People can take a look at that. The Madisonville game is very intriguing to me. That's a game that, if you look at it on paper, that looks like a game, beat them last year, looks like a game you ought to win. But it makes me uneasy to ever go into a game against Madisonville and think of it as a win, beforehand. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
they're just always so athletic.
They are, and again, it'll be physical. And just looking at last season, that's one of my favorite games of the year, and it's just a big accomplishment for us. But we're moving forward. I feel like we're stronger, smarter, more mature, and a year wiser in just about every position. So we'll be ready for that challenge. We know it will be tough, but we're just going to take that on. We're not going to back down from any of our challenges this year.
All right. Well, that brings to a close this edition of This Week in Laker Football. I want to thank you for being with us today, Coach.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
All right. You've been listening to Laker Athletics on 89.7.